is Pam Hancock, and I'm 23, and I've lived in Lafayette for about 8-9 years. Well, I actually didn't know it was called Morehouse. I heard of them as the Purple People.
It was just urban legend, you know, maybe you wouldn't hear about it, but your friend would hear about it, or your friend's friend would hear about it.
They keep to themselves more than they're out in the community.
They were famous because they only had purple buildings, they wore purple clothes.
They called them the Purple People because they painted all their houses purple and so forth. And they go up there and try to figure out what the heck was going on.
The purple thing was part of the game, that people would have a sense. They were supposed to walk in here and think that things were different, you know.
I don't know, they were a religion. I heard people say they were a sex cult.
Oh God, let's see. Druggies, sex commune, sex freaks.
It's just not typical for someone who's 35 to live with your friends and a group of people. People are biased against things that are different from what they're used to.
Vic was about creating experiences. This is something special. This is something different.
Victor Baranco is the deceased philosophical founder of this philosophy and lifestyle.
It started in 1968. Victor Baranco and Susie Baranco were doing sensual research, and so they took the information that they discovered and called it basic sensuality and started the first house.
Victor Baranco to me was one of the two most powerful male influences in my life. And he was my partner in doing this house and running it and stuff, and one of my best friends.
And it was like a way they could live a good life, and so they could sell these courses, and at the same time they did good deeds. He called it serve the world unselfishly and make a profit from it.
He was my favorite thug because he could out-thug me, and that's saying something.
We had our own band that played like blues, samba, rock. We would just dance all night, and there was a poker game, and that would happen every Friday night for a long time. It was the most important thing to me to get out to that party, and I would do anything to get there, and I was very upset the few times that I couldn't actually make it when I wanted to go.
The spark is still there, but it's just not like the immediate presence of him. And now I know that there's other people in the community that have taken up that spot, but I miss him. You know, we all miss him, and we're all exploring and seeing what it is to live without Vic and to keep the thing going.
I was a parole agent for the state of California. I used to place a lot of my clients, or the parolees that were on my caseload, would reside at the Morehouse programs. So one of the parolees that I had, a resident there at Morehouse, was going to be married, and she and her fiance decided to get married there at the residence. So they invited me to come to the wedding. Now you have to understand, this is kind of a third world program, and here I am, you know, coat and tie, and I'm a state parole officer, and there were some of the people that weren't real excited about having what they thought of as a narc coming into their wedding, because it meant that, you know, some of the other goodies that they were going to share had to be kept on the side. They were a little paranoid. And we were drinking wine and having a good time before the wedding, and then they announced that the wedding would begin, and they ushered all the guests upstairs. And so we went upstairs, and I thought this was a little strange, but I figured, you know. And we walked in, we were ushered into a bedroom, and the bride and groom were in bed. She was wearing a veil, and that was about it. And I think I don't remember what he was wearing other than maybe a little bow tie. And so we were all treated to the wedding ceremony right there with the bride and groom in bed, and we were all circled around the bed. And then after it was over and they were pronounced husband and wife, we all applauded and they passed champagne around. And then I decided it was time for me to go because I was cramping the party when they invited all of us to stay there for the consummation of the marriage. At that point I figured, well, I'll thank you very much. I really appreciated being here, but it was time for me to go. So that was one of the highlights. And at that point I realized that things at Morehouse were a little bit different than they were in the normal mainstream kind of communities around here. So.
Anybody who ever knew me from before would not think I would live with a group of people. I'm pretty much a loner.
He taught me the appreciation of having people in my life that I would no more have in my life than fly to the moon prior to coming to Moore.
I was definitely interested in the communal part. People have fun here.
You create your own family, everybody does, and there is a bond that we have.
There was 20 people in the house when I moved in, and it was like after 2 days, you were in love with all the people in the house. You would never associate with all those different kinds of people left up to your own devices. Everything from crazies on SSI to PhDs.
Oh, I like here now best. We don't do a lot of the traditional Morehouse things that I didn't like doing anyway, like being a maid. And see, it used to be when Vic lived there that the maid serve him and take care of the powers that be.
We had to have just the right uniform and get that, pay for that ourselves, get it made, you know, and there were rules, you know, how you're supposed to manicure your nails and, you know, all this stuff.
No one wants to wear it. No one.
You only have to be pretty far in to become a maid, actually.
The politics at Lafayette, but here we don't do that.
Yeah. Something like that.
I think one could characterize the San Francisco Morehouse as being sort of a fringe house.
Vic used to call it two in a box. That's what his name for a couple living in an apartment or a house. They thought that you needed to be in a group to have a good relationship. People out there really believed it. Like even when we left Lafayette and moved here, at that point we still lived in this house, but we sort of stopped fully living that lifestyle. My husband went and got a real job, and I started taking care of our son sort of full time.
There's something about the intensity in other places I've been. I spent 2 weeks once at Lafayette, and it bugged me.
I spent all my time either at the community, or if I left with somebody else from there. And where I went most of the time was to something that was even a part of our lifestyle. If I went, I went to collect food for the charity or give away food. I might have gone to the dump to dump our garbage to the Richmond dump. That's an interesting experience. And or we went to our MARC groups, and then I was still meeting people from the outside world, but it was people who were there to hear about or participate with the MORE activities. And I rarely actually did much else for a long time.
I was done with Lafayette. I had a good time, but the lifestyle no longer suited my needs or my goals. Most people who live there are lifers, and they make their living off of courses and houses. And as someone who needed to make a living, I had responsibilities within the community which really prohibited, it got in the way of me having an outside job, and they really sort of frowned upon that anyway. So it didn't make economic sense for me to stay there. I really like living here because it's more of a blend of society in general and the principles and philosophy of Morehouse. So it suits me better.
What I see as the most important reason for me to live here is that we tell the truth here.
There was a period where I was sort of all or nothing, that I thought it was the word for everything, and it was everything important was what they said in Morehouse.
And it's just the idea of what more is to me is really simplistic. It's Victor's teachings that have created in me a civil attitude. Because believe me, when I got out of Leavenworth, I was not civil.
The picture we give of it, or what people see of us, is attractive to other people. My granddaughter, for example, wants us to start a Morehouse. She would like us to have our own Morehouse, and so would you, for that matter.
Do we want to do that?
Yeah.
You want to meet in 2 weeks?
Sure.
If an action is proposed, you can vote no on it. And the idea isn't really to have a bunch of no votes, it's really to talk things out and to reach consensus.
You never have a disgruntled minority that way.
I mean, I'm trying to get away for Rocco to come.
Oh, well, Rocco's in night school.
I told you there's only one night.
There was a viewpoint in Morehouse that everybody's point of view is important. I totally still embrace that idea. I think that a lot of people in our culture do today, that the idea of diversity and respecting diversity is about that. Then, like in the first year I voted, Ronald Reagan was elected president. And I was shocked that somebody that right-wing would get elected president. And so I think that part of the thing that happened with me in Morehouse was that I sort of wanted to drop out of the general society of the 80s. It was just not what I wanted to be part of.
My wife and I had gotten married with no references to sex, verbally or otherwise. She met me through some gay friends of mine.
And we wanted to take our sexing to a whole new level. We saw new possibilities with it, new levels of intensity and depth and duration.
We had people coming in here that were dysfunctional sensually, sexually, any way you could possibly name it. And it's all across the land. We have people that have taken our courses everywhere from New York, Miami, Chicago, Atlanta, Hawaii. I mean, it's all over the United States. And there's been thousands.
If you have a purple limousine pull up to a house and a bunch of people get out there going to teach a course, it's a better show than if you have a white limo pull up.
It was about communicating about what is good in your life and how to train your partner, specifically how to touch you. She became very interested and decided pretty much within the next hour that we were going to come back to San Francisco or to the Bay Area.
I can just touch this chicken, like, to handle it and move it around, and I'm not really noticing, how the chicken feels. I'm moving it around, or I can decide to really notice the chicken, both, even though I have gloves on, and we wear gloves all the time to make out for survival sex reasons, but I can touch this chicken with a taking touch, which is for me. A taking touch is so that I notice what's good about the chicken and what feels good to me. I'm doing it for me, not for the chicken. And that goes for a person too. So I'm touching it and I'm noticing how soft and smooth it is and how good it feels to my fingers. Now I just felt that in my crotch right then and there because I have a connection between my fingers and my crotch. That's kind of interesting. I never got off on touching a piece of raw chicken before.
Morehouse teaches responsibility. It teaches the responsibility that you have to know your body.
The biggest thing that enhanced my life was learning how to communicate and understand and please women. And that has been one of the biggest things I've been researching in the last 20 years is how to please the ladies around me in my life.
A few years later, I started taking courses. Then I started dating a tall blonde. She moved me in.
I've learned a lot about myself. I've had a lot of fun. I've had parts of my life filled in that seemed kind of empty before. My sensual life is better than it could ever have been without the training that I took in the courses. So yeah.
We would recommend, if you never have taken a course, that you take basic sensuality, which contains as much as of the information of the lifestyle as we can put into a single course.
Then you get into the laboratory courses where you have a partner and you get to like touch people and so on.
We gave demonstrations on sensuality, doing a woman, feeling contractions of an orgasm, but this was all, and I want to repeat this was all with consensual agreement. People were over 21. There's no kids allowed.
Just erase is the head of your clitoris. Maintain a stutter stroke.
This particular course, fundamentals, there's a demonstration of a woman in orgasm for an hour to demonstrate the fact that that's possible.
That the idea of doing a woman is listening to her, or doing a guy, is listening to either one, having your attention on that person so that you can learn. And they start from orgasm to begin with.
When the miracle of miracles happened and our marriage actually was consummated in August or so of that year, whereupon we called the entire world and danced,
I've done everything from Gestalt to Zen Buddhism and yoga and Tantra and all that happy horse manure. The truth of the matter is, the relationship between people has to create the sensuality and sexuality for them to have it.
I became closer and more pleasured with and by my wife, Chris, than by far surpassing any ideas that most people ever even like go to the movies and see about, let alone think about. It became evident to Vic that there were certain times that people needed to have a break from their lives. And he didn't, so the idea of a sanctuary program is a place that's a safe space for people to just not have to deal with supporting themselves. People could be millionaires and they could still really need to be on sanctuary, if you know what I mean. Because, people get addicted to success and it doesn't have anything to do with how well they can enjoy themselves.
We're going to Concord and going to a place they call Little Mexico, where we go out and pick the food up and come back and clean it and put it in boxes. It's about 500 boxes a week or something that we end up giving out. And so about the end of a month's time, we done gave out about 1,000 boxes. I'm finna deliver the food, give the food out here.
We believe that there's so much surplus in the world that we can afford to take care of other people. And so a box could have a loaf of bread and some butter, vegetables, meat, whatever is available. And then we pile them all in a truck, take the truck and go somewhere where people know we're going to be and hand out the food. So we circulate food every week. And we do hundreds and hundreds of boxes, literally. And it's a lot of fun to do. It's fun to know that what you're doing is going to take care of people.
A lot of times I just stop in an area where I see a lot of kids at. I just used to stop there and ask them, do they want food? Well, go ahead. So that's a food day. So we do on food more days and just give it out and sort of just keep it anonymous as possible, much as possible, and people are gratified and happy about it. All right.
We went to Semi Freddy's, picked up our normal charity donation that we take to Glide Memorial. We go once a week on Wednesdays. We've been doing that for the last 5-6 years.
I'm a volunteer with a couple of charities, and they donate flowers to us that wouldn't be really good for them to sell, that don't have a long shelf life. So they just give them to us, and we give them away to sometimes the food with the food giveaways. And we've gone to a bunch of different old folks' homes with flowers in different times, and we just give them out to people that want them, so that they don't just end up in the garbage.
We give flowers away, and then we keep what we want. Me and Katasho and Conway are mostly the people that like to do flowers in the house. They're absolutely beautiful. So that's another thing that you learn is, well, not that you don't know anyway, you already know everything, is to appreciate a lot of little things.
Well, we met here. We met in a course, actually. We were each in a course that required partners.
Yes, we were.
And we each had a different partner. But there was something about this guy that I just liked a whole lot. And one of the other women in the course, she agreed with me, and she kept saying, look at that, look at that. And it was pretty interesting. We wound up dating, and I found myself waking up in his bed. I never was able to sleep with people comfortably. And that was my clue. Oh, I think I could try this. And that was about 12 years ago.
Toward the end of my mother's life, she did actually come here and live. And she took some courses at the age of, I guess, 82. And she actually transformed her lifelong habit of not listening to actually communicating. To my great surprise, I could have a real conversation with my mother in which we actually communicated. And I didn't think that would ever happen with her.
My whole life before had been about joining different groups and meditating to try to fix the things that bugged me and stuff like that. There's nothing to fix. You know, it's just a matter of enjoying and having more fun and just growing as a person.
This is one of the exercises that's taught in a course called Basic Sensuality. We specifically look for things about ourselves that we approve of. It's really important to know about your body because you're in charge of it.
I like me. I think that's the most important thing, is liking yourself and who you are.
I like my hands. I like that they're big. They're pretty big for a person my size, and they're solid.
I used to say I'm more muscle, but I like the tone. I think I look pretty strong, which I am.
Visually, it's very delicate. The skin, the texture of the skin, it's very fine right there.
I always liked my ears because I could move them, which is sort of cute. Used to get a lot of attention from the girls doing that.
I in particular like my nipples. They're big and they stick out and they look really fun and interesting, and lots of people like my nipples. So I like them a lot because I get a lot of attention on my nipples.
But I started wearing glasses and I look more sophisticated now.
So I really do like what I see. We're having a celebration dinner for Birta, who's going back to Norway. Now Birta, I've fallen in love with her as well as many other, I think probably just about everyone in the house in the short time she's lived here, because she's such a really likable person and very friendly and a lot of fun, and we're going to miss her a lot. It's 5:30 and the chicken's going in, and the oven is at 400 cool, no hot.
I'm feeding the kitty. Friskies. This cat we've had about 7 or 8 years, but we've had cats most of the time in the last 18 years. They do their job. They keep the mice out of here. They're a natural organic solution to the mice problem.
Purple potato salad. We have purple potatoes. It's in the fridge, and we have purple potatoes to match our purple house.
All right, and we have in tonight is rice, broccoli, squash. Wait a minute, that's broccoli. Cauliflower. So this stuff was white. I couldn't quite get.
Me and Vic were just sitting there, you know, having a few and just telling stories about when we grew up and stuff, both of us. And that's what he didn't have a whole lot of, were people that wanted to be his friends. All of them wanted something from him. The homework was the ladies had to get off 3 times a day, plus one time during the week they had to get a 3-hour due witnessed by at least 2 other women.
You know, learning is by seeing and participating as a woman. That watching a woman come really well blows all your limitations on it ever happening. just makes it so real.
Yes, I agree with that.
I have a set of models upstairs. I have a pussy and I have a cock that are anatomically correct. And we use them for the demonstration of in the beginning class to show people how to do it. And it works perfectly like that. You know.
I do feel a sense of wanting younger people to know that life goes on and it gets better. It gets better and better and better.
The best thing I got out of Morehouse is my friends for years. I've had Dave here as a friend of mine since 1985. Victor was a friend of mine since 1972.
It's got to be worth it or pleasure. That's pretty selfish.
You know, now of course I see lots of different things. There are lots of different sources of information.
I can't imagine living without some of the ideas I've got here. I don't think I ever will again.
It's more of, I guess I have a more realistic point of view about them and about the Morehouse.
Well, I think I'm done.
Are you cold?
Yeah.
I don't have my glasses on. I just kind of
This is the end, the last page. We're on the last page here. That was forceful, wasn't it?